America. I'm Robert Reese, and welcome back to the CEO Show. We're here today with Dan Kane. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm so glad to be with you because Dan is the co-CEO and co-founder of ModMed, which you're going to hear about. And then in this interview, in part B, you are going to hear about how, as a sophomore in college, he founded a company that was a tremendous game changer company. But first, let's start off with ModMed. 2010, tell me about, explain what the company is and its unique space in AI and healthcare.
Well, as you mentioned as you were doing your lead in there, I have a real passion for transforming really important industries. And so after being the co-founder of ModMed, after being the co-founder of Blackboard, rather, I wanted to do something that had equal meaning, equal substance, equal contribution to humanity. And what bigger than education is healthcare. So ModMed, quite simply, is in the business of helping practices, private practices, manage the entire burden of the healthcare industry. It manages their scheduling and their billing and their patient collaboration, their note-taking, their prescribing, et cetera. But it does it in a way that allows the doctors to really focus on the patients. So we utilize technology never to replace a physician, because we believe that doctor-patient experience is just so sacred. But how do we use technology around them that lets them focus on the human being rather than the technology itself? Unfortunately, as a country, we've been burdening doctors and caregivers for years now with more and more technological regulations that say you have to do electronic health records, you have to send prescriptions electronically, and so on. And these are all really well-intentioned, but they can take away patient care if they're not done correctly. So ModMed is quite simply in the business of getting us back to the point where a doctor can take care of a human being.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I remember that Dr. Jim Madare is the CEO of American Medical Association. He said the biggest challenge is doctor have too much administration.
That's
We're
right.
going to talk more about that, but I just want to jump in with a question, which is about being a co-CEO, co-founder. I have rarely seen it work. Now, my friend Bill McDermott, he was co-CEO of SAP. They did it tremendously, but I've seen at least a dozen times where it's failed. But you've been 15 years already going at it, having a huge success being co-founder, co-CEO. How does that work? And what are the red flags people have to avoid so they don't bring it down the wrong path and they succeed?
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure your audience understands the importance of accountability. And one of the first things they're going to think about in a co-anything is if you have shared accountability, you have no accountability. And that's simply not true. You need to make sure there is a very clear understanding on the accountability. My co-CEO and I have very clear, hey, what are decisions you're going to make and you don't need to run by me? And what are decisions that I'm going to make and not run by you? And what are things we know we need to get together on? And he was my president before he was my co-CEO. And in 8 years, we've never had a conflict where I went to him and I said, hey, Joe, what the hell are you doing? Like, he knows what to bring up. I know what to bring up. And it's a way for us to divide and conquer. And in a lot of cases, two minds are better than one at solving really hard problems. And so I find it to be tremendously powerful because we get to focus on aspects of the business and we get to bring our unique personalities to bear on the problems, but each having, ultimate accountability to whatever it is we're doing. And same thing
So
on yeah, please.
how do you split up what you do and what he does?
So Joe is an incredible operator and CEO, hence he's my co-CEO, focuses a lot of his time and energy on the go-to-market aspects. So product development, client services, sales, marketing, implementation. I focus a lot of my time on innovation, HR, finance, legal, compliance. And so they overlap sometimes, but it's a very clear structure in the organization of who's reporting to who's managing what. And then of course we are connected at the hip at all critical decisions.
And how often do you speak about different things and bounce ideas off each other?
I mean, if we don't talk every day, something has probably gone wrong. Like, we are pretty up to speed on what's going on without having to ever manage each other. But we don't go more than a day or two without talking on some facet, some aspect, some hiring, some strategy, that's going on. And I think that's really healthy.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on making that work. So let's talk about AI. And you and I spoke before that AI really is a force for good. I've been involved with, hospital boards for over 20 years, and you have a really strong philosophy. Talk about that, Dan.
So
AI in
we
healthcare.
believe that AI should be there to assist, to augment. It's not designed to replace jobs. AI, when implemented correctly, does that administrative burden. It alleviates that on behalf of the practice. And so it can help take your notes. It can respond to patient messages with billing information or follow up with rescheduling. There's no reason that the human beings have to do those things. But what AI is not is a replacement for caregivers. AI should not become your primary care doctor or your specialist. I have yet to meet, an ophthalmologist who uses our product that's like, I'm not really a great ophthalmologist. It would be wonderful for you to write AI to help me do my job better. What they want to do is get back to taking care of patients. And right now the burden is overhead, it's not seeing people. And so what they need to do is see more patients, take care, do the things that they spent an entire lifetime getting certified to do and training to do and a residency to do, and stop worrying so much about all this other overhead that's taking their focus away from human care.
So you have an exact niche in the healthcare arena, and there's a reason you built from zero to over 2,300 people super rapidly, and you're having so much success with this. So describe what your niche is and how that fits into healthcare.
It's a good question because a niche in something that's a $5 trillion industry is still multi-billions of dollars of TAM available to us. But yes, we focus on the ambulatory side of medicine, so not inpatient, but the side where you're going to your doctor and coming out. And we focus really on surgical and medical specialties. So these are your dermatologists, ophthalmologists, orthopedic surgeons, otolaryngologists, gastroenterologists, et cetera. And the reason we focus on them is if you create software that's going to work equally well in a specialty practice, in a primary care practice, in a pediatric practice, and there's 170 different specialties, chances are you haven't really developed what's needed for that specialty. And so we develop software one specialty at a time. We hire physicians. We actually teach them how to program. We teach them how to code. Because it turns out that no amount of teaching a software developer orthopedics is ever going to resonate to the level we need it to. But we can absolutely teach an orthopedic surgeon how to partner with an AI coding assistant and get that knowledge and wisdom and workflow out of their brain into the software.
Wait. How do you train a physician to do this? Physicians, all physicians I know, they want to spend time with patients. They don't want to be learning software.
Well, that's true, except for the very rare special physician who really views this as a way for them to help their peers. And they know that by giving us a day or two of their time, and man, their opportunity cost is tremendous. So we have to compensate.
So all they're giving total is like 1 or 2 days, and then they have everything from there on in. Is that
No,
correct?
1 or 2 days a week. We have 23 doctors on staff. They work at ModMed 1, 2, some work 3 and 4 days a week at ModMed and just do volunteer work. But we don't want them to stop practicing because they're our living lab. So it turns out we have to have a number of orthopedic surgeons and ophthalmologists.
Oh, you take the orthopedic and you bring them into your model for 1 to 2 days a week.
Yes.
And it sort of mixes things up for them and they're learning. Oh, I totally get it. Makes
Yes.
complete sense. Keep going.
Yes, we teach
It's a great
them
model.
how to be software developers because they know the workflow, they know the medicine, they know the billing and the coding, and they know that it's all in their head. And so we work with the software team to actually teach them how to code. I mean, what really got me thinking about this was at the time, 15 years ago, I was teaching my little kids to program, and I'm sitting across from my co-founder who, is Ivy League educated. I'm like, if I can teach them how to code, I'm pretty sure I can teach you how to code. And at first it was like the mysticism of software. And then he realized oh, if I get all of you other people out of the way, I can just intensely focus on teaching the computer everything I know about dermatology. And it worked beautifully. And the market has rewarded us because instead of trying to be everything to everyone, we are the perfect solution for all these different specialties.
I get it. And a great model. Anyone who wants to find out about it, what is the website they'd go to?
It's modmed.com, MODMED.
And you know what? I have to commend you on that. That is a great name, easy to remember, and it makes total sense for what it is. We're about to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to hear a story of how Dan, as a sophomore in college, founded a significant company that then, after transforming education, led into transforming healthcare. Back in a few. Hi, this is Robert Reese on the CEO Show, where we interview the CEOs who have reinvented the fabric of America. We're here today with Dan Kane, who is the co-CEO and co-founder of ModMed, and we're talking about how they are transforming healthcare through AI, but getting physicians so they could spend more time actually with patients and have better outcomes. But I want to take you back to a transformative moment. There you are, a a college sophomore at Cornell. You founded this company called Blackboard, and I have to tell you, I just realized it now. I'm so amazed to meet you because I did a Forbes article with the CEO of Blackboard on how to turn how to turn education from a B plus to an A minus in America. And I had like Sylvan Learning CEOs, three other CEOs there, but I never realized here I am today with you, and you were the founder. But this was as a sophomore in college. How did you come up with the idea? What obstacles did you overcome to have this transformative moment?
Well, I hope you have a few hours. I understand we only have a couple minutes, so I'll try to keep it brief. Every large company started off as a small company, and every small company had to come up with their idea and then execute on it. And so the idea from Blackboard actually traces its roots all the way to a single classroom where I was sitting in Dr. Cindy Van Ess's Intro to Stats class, and I'm dyslexic, and I really struggled with transcribing all the different curbs. And so I went up to her and I asked, is it possible for me to get the course notes? And she said it wouldn't be fair. I would, if I could give them to you, I'd want to give them to everybody. And I said, oh, we can make that happen. Give them to me and I'll scan them. And this is before there was a browser. This is before there was the modern internet. There's a technology called Gopher, which no one remembers, but it was a text-based internet. Think about it that way. So I go up in front of the class and I introduce myself and I say, hey, you'll be able to go from your dorm room to the library and download and then print out the notes, and we can all, take notes in the margins, because I don't know if you're having the same problems I am, but I can't keep up with learning and transcribing. And so that was the beginning of it. We created a text-based website for course documents. And then other professors said, hey, you're that Dan Kane, could you do it in my class? And I said, sure, happy to. And then before I knew it, we had more demand than I could do myself. So I told the department, I'm working 2 other jobs and putting myself through school. I've got to, charge you. They said, not a problem. I hire my housemates. We go 20, 30, 50, 60 courses. Then we start making it for entire departments. And one thing leads to another. And it's now software that we're licensing to other universities. And that's how these things happen. Now, I was never the CEO or co-CEO of Blackboard because I knew enough to know that while I may have a great idea and I could help write great software, businesses are built, right? Entrepreneurs are built, not born. Like, you can have a visionary idea and you can invent something, but to actually operate a business, that's learned. And that's only really learned through wisdom. And you can either acquire that wisdom the easier way, about reading great books about it, listening to podcasts, watching your YouTube channel, or you can learn it the hard way. And I decided that books weren't going to be enough. And I watched and learned from some great former CEOs of Blackboard as we learned how to scale venture capital and private equity and raise money. I learned how we go public in that whole process. I learned how we go international. And eventually that company sold to private equity. So I got sort of the whole life cycle through Blackboard. And then at that point, I felt like, okay, I'd learned enough and had gained enough experience that I could do it myself, and became the founding CEO of ModMed.
So now let's talk about ModMed and the future of healthcare. How do you envision the future of healthcare changing in America, and what will be the role that ModMed will play?
It's ironic because the future of healthcare should look a lot like what healthcare looked like 30 years ago, before all this technology came in, where a physician spent their time with the patient. The patient explained their history. They did an examination. They maybe ordered some tests or some studies. Then the doctor would synthesize that information and come up with a plan of treatment, and they would administer it, measure, and take it from there. Healthcare today looks very different, right? I'm sure all of you in your audience have been in a doctor's exam room when the doctor's spending more time with their back turned to you typing on a laptop than they are talking to you. And that's because all of this has just gotten in the way. This technology has gotten in the way of patient care. And so what technology should be is AI ambient listening solutions. That's listening to the conversation between the doctor and the patient and synthesizing what were the decisions that were made, what was the history that was discussed, what are the prescriptions and labs. And then AI can figure out the billing, and AI can figure out how to get that prescription ready and that lab ready and the pathology ready. And so AI assistants can do a lot that don't take away from doctor-patient care, they add to it. And so in our world, you've got AI for the front desk, which is helping schedule and reschedule and notify patients. It's helping respond to patients' information. You've got AI in the back office helping with billing and denials and cash flow. You've got AI analytics telling a doctor how they're getting their referral patterns. And of course, you have AI in that clinical encounter that's listening and being an assistant to the doctor so that they can focus on the patient.
So what you are doing is allowing people to do what they were meant to do, which is spend time with the patients by removing all the extraneous stuff, right?
That's right. And no one's going to complain about reducing overhead, right? If we were going to modernize medicine by changing the distribution of wealth between like pharmaceutical companies, life science companies, med device companies, doctors, hospitals, you're going to create new winners and losers. And people in a $5 trillion industry, they fight that, right? Even if it's for the best of the country. But you lower the 20% of healthcare spend, which is just overhead, and no one really complains. And so that's what we're going after. And we're sharing the gains with the practices. So we're making the practices far more efficient. We're increasing their revenue. We're lowering their cost. And we're participating in that by charging them a subscription for the software. But everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one more question, which is about your culture, because I know you really care a lot about specifically the people there, how they're growing, what they're doing. And I mean, I see it in your face now, how you're nodding your head on this. And talk about you grew from 0 to 2,300 people, about 1,700 in the United States. What are the core fundamentals of culture that you say, this is the key? Anyone wants a great company, this is uniquely what we do?
I hear all the time around transparency. And I then challenge the CEOs I meet who say that. I'm like, well, what are you doing to create transparency? And I think I use a different word, which is more authenticity with transparency. So authentic transparency, if you will. And you need to actually put it into action. So we have first Friday meetings, first Friday of every month, where we share. I have open door days where any employee can come, and they do. Some come in with an agenda, some just come in to talk because I gave them the time and they want to talk about the Miami Dolphins and what a season we're having. Great, fine. But some people really want that advice and they want career growth and we want to talk about their future. And I love this stuff. So open door days, ask me anythings, the monthly meetings. Like, you need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, and create an environment where people can be themselves, their authentic selves, and they can share and experience what a great culture is. And so I'm super proud of what we've built, and it permeates now. Now I have no direct control over culture. It comes through our hiring principles. The types of people we bring in determine our culture from this point out.
And just throw in a couple of those hiring principles.
Well, we do have to hire for culture, right? So our core values dictate what our culture is. So we bring in people that want to align their passion with purpose, that they believe in saving time, that they understand you have to put these words and thoughts into action. You can't just sit around and think of great ideas, but innovate boldly and then make things happen. So these are our core values, and they're not aspirational. They're a reflection of who we are, and they're the measuring stick for when we want to bring someone in. We're like, how do they stand up to these core values of modernizing medicine? The most important of all, though, is create customer delight. And delight is something that goes beyond an expectation, right? To delight someone, you need to surprise them. And so we are constantly trying to figure out, like, how do we delight our customers and our products and our services and just in our being, in our conferences and our trade shows. And so we're always thinking about, like, how do we have that moment? Because healthcare is high stakes. It's life or death. We have over 100 million patient encounters on our software every year. And it's an opportunity to really do something right every time.
And there you have it. Dan, I got to tell you, it's great what you've done first with transforming education. And then now you are really transforming healthcare, that I've never seen anyone who's doing exactly what you're doing, the way you're doing it, putting the specialists first. And that's allowing them to truly be what they wanted to be, which is specialist. So
That's right.
a pleasure having you on the show, Dan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Everyone, and remember one thing about healthcare, and this is what you just heard from Dan. The key to healthcare is going back to where we were 30 years ago, spending time with the patients before technology. Now we could just use technology to lower cost, improve operations, and there you have it, moving forward in the right way with healthcare. See you next time. Hello, America.